Day in the Nevada desert just north of Las Vegas, Nevada. This is season finale Sunday, and we are ready for the final race of what has been an absolutely amazing weekend. It's pretty fitting that we finish this one off with one of the fastest groups of cars that will be on track here today, the Saleen Cup and the beautiful S1s. Hi, everybody. I am Greg Kramer, joined by Rick Titus and Ryan Marine. And this beautiful field of cars are ready to set sail here for the final time this weekend, for the final time this season. And it has been a beautiful evolution of growth. And look at this beautiful field.
Well described, though, Greg. It's exactly what it's been. We started out, this didn't even exist in April. And now they've managed to come here with 22 cars. A couple have been damaged in the course of the 4 days we've been here, but we're going to be presenting a pretty full field. You and I will have to kind of talk about some driver pairings that will be taking place. And I've got the point status at this juncture and hoping any second to actually get the grid as it lays out. The championship is super close. And I talked to a lot of cracking voices and wet eyes. So the tension is very high. Everyone wants to win this because of the reward. The reward is that factory GT4 ride,
Yep, and that concept car was revealed here this weekend. Big evening at the Bellagio. Everybody very excited about that GT4 version of this S1. And absolutely stunning car, certainly. And if it's anything like the performance we see from these cars, and it'll just be better, boy, is it going to be a rocket ship.
It is, and it's going to be a customer buy car. They can purchase the things, and very competitively priced with what the other GT4 cars sell for. The grid now forming up, so we get a pretty good sense of who's what and where. Again, the championship in both the Pro-Am and the Young Guns, very close. So there'll be some, and you and I will get into some of that points analysis as we get in here. Reminder, you could be a part of this series next year. These are drivers who paid their way in to participate for the visibility and the shot at a GT4 ride.
Absolutely, and what a golden opportunity, and to drive these beautiful cars and to be part of their evolution. I think that's something that you can take away from this is, not just out there racing a car. Your input has helped develop this car because it's your data. All of that information, the comments you make after a session are all part of the program. Here's the lineup, and on the pole, the number 55, the car shared by Chris Wilson and Matt Keegan, that beautiful number 55, alongside one of the two guest drivers in the field that have come from a long ways away.
They got a lot of air miles out of that deal.
They did indeed, all the way from China. This is the number 7 of Don Liang. And then the third place car, you can just see the white machine there with the red hue and the number 3 on it is Rainy Heat. Both of these guys very quick and were in the mix yesterday, to be sure. And Carter Fartuk here is on essentially the pole for the Young Guns with a 4th overall run here in that number 18. He's been so quick. This weekend in particular, he's been just troubled with a little bit of mechanical issues. If they've got that fixed, watch for him. I think he's going to be ultra hungry today.
yeah, that's understated. Absolutely. You and I have sat up here and watched some real heartbreak. Lindsey Brewer is brand new to the series this weekend and been very impressive, very quick. Heinz, and of course Austin Riley, the autism young man who's just done a great job and currently leads in points in the Young Gun division.
Yeah, great stories throughout. Dr. Heart Surgeon there, Dr. Alexander Marmarano, is quite a character as well.
He said to say howdy. I was just talking to him before I came up.
I love it.
And I said, he called you Dr. Alex. Is that good? He goes, I told him to call me that.
Exactly.
But he races a Porsche GT3 in other series when he's not doing this. Yep. So I was anxious to get his impressions of a mid-engine car versus a rear-engine car. Of course, Porsche's got that rear-engine car working pretty good.
Yes, it does.
And he said it has been a learned lesson, that he can throw this car at the corner harder than he's used to.
It's a little bit, you got that big lump right over those drive wheels in the back. There's a big pendulum effect, isn't it, in those Porsches?
Yeah, I don't like a polar moment that's around Nome.
Exactly. Yeah, you like to have that, but that's what makes a Porsche when you figure out how to drive it there quick. But tell you what, then transitioning here for him, and when I asked him, I said, what car are you in when I was first talking to him? And he said, I'm in the number 5. And he smiled, looked at me and said, Mambo number 5, baby.
He did, and he reminded me of that today.
Yeah, he's quite a character, to be sure.
Yeah, you'd never guess he was a heart surgeon because he's got a great personality. I'm not putting heart surgeons down, but you don't expect anyone quite that bubbly or funny.
Yeah, normally heart surgeons don't have that kind of bedside manner.
Yeah, you're dead right.
But this guy is he is a treat, to be sure. Going back up and looking through this field just a little bit, second in the Young Guns is Cameron Lawrence.
Yep.
And Cameron has been very quick this weekend. Certainly somebody to keep an eye out here as well. Paul Terry in the number 4, he'll start 6th overall, second in the Pro-Am category. We know his MO is aggression. He is aggressive when it comes to racing.
Yeah, even in the buffet line today at the compound, I noticed that he was willing to push me out of the way to get to the chicken first. So yeah, he definitely.
He'll go after it. And then the pairing that we really have to watch for here, and it's a good story, is the number 6 that'll start 7th. That's 3rd in the Pro-Am category. Johann Schwartz originally tabbed to drive that car by himself, and when his friend Bryce Miller's car had a big issue earlier in the weekend, Johann just absolutely demanded that they put Bryce's name on the side of that car and that they do it together. And that's a pretty good driver pairing right there.
Yeah, not only is that strong, it shows you the kind of guy that Johann is. He is really a class act, and a gentleman that if he hadn't had some mechanical failures during this year in this series, I think would have been really fighting for the championship. Just a very, very talented driver, and he won in the BMW that championship in touring.
He did. And won today, earlier today.
Again, yeah.
With a great drive. So
he's in that
8th win of the season for
wow.
touring.
Yeah, he is strong.
He just has been dialing it up. He will be the second driver in that car. Bryce Miller will be starting
He'll start it? Okay.
So.
And then we got Molly Saleen and Martina Kwan will be driving together. Now, the way that works, folks, you understand there's a mandatory at mid-race 2-minute pit stop. 2 minutes, and in that is enough time to change drivers so they can both gather points. So that's how they've approached that. That pairing will be good. Those are two conservative drivers who have continued to work their way up the field, and inevitably every race.
And bring home points.
Yep, exactly. Hence why they're in the position they are. That said, these are very close to identical to the street S1s that will be available later next year. A $100,000 performance sports car that was going to shock people at how quick they actually are.
Yeah, they are fast, and they get around to 3. I mean, they're already running close to GT 4 times, so that just gives you an idea of the performance envelope in which they operate. It is pretty impressive, and
this is a pretty catered deal. If you buy into this or rent into this thing, it includes the driving suit and the radio in your helmet, which gets installed. Lots of driver coaching, and boy, they've got strong drivers.
Yes.
In fact, a lot of these front runners are actually driver coaches, ironically enough. And then Eric Curran, who's done all the setup work on these cars, who just won his own IMSA Petit Le Mans championship last week. So
yes,
good shoes, giving you good advice.
Oh yeah, Eric Curran. He's the lead R&D driver, and also I think in a way he's become the lead instructor.
Yep.
And
you're right.
So, and that's nice. You can have your own instructor that is helping you, and then you can get the data as well from Eric Kern, who can look at it and offer up his opinions, and I'd be paying attention. It
was pointed out to me earlier, back when you and I were driving a lot, we'd come in, the reason we crashed was, well, the throttle stuck or the brakes didn't work. Well, with this telemetry, there's no fibbing.
Exactly.
They go, no, the throttle did not stick, and the brakes were working just dandy.
That's the modern era. That's the modern era.
Yeah.
Great exchange. I think explains that at the runoffs on text. One of my analysts was a crew chief for Tom O'Gorman when O'Gorman went and won his TCA championship.
Okay.
And Tom was working down in the pits, and he texted something about a car, and he said, it's this. And the guy said, are you sure it wasn't a mistake by the driver? And O'Gorman texted, it's always the car. And his crew chief sitting next to me announcing, I see a text pop, and I look down, and it's the crew chief who said, welcome to my world.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
So that's what we're dealing with here with these drivers. But I'll tell you, that's the other part of the equation here, isn't it, is you work with these coaches, but you also have to learn how to work with an engineer and a crew on setup. And if that's unfamiliar to you, that's another spot that those driver coaches can be invaluable.
A good point, because it is something to learn. We've got some very close point scenarios here. Paul Terry has 89 points in this juncture, but to give you an idea, a win is worth 25 points. So you've got Brandon Davis on top of him. Eric Powell could still pull this off with 25 points. And then, of course, Martina Kwan would have to have a very successful day, not to mention with others would have to do not so well. We go to the young guns, and actually the highest point scorer period is Austin Riley at 126, and right on top of him, just 10 points back, is Carter Fartek. How do you say it?
Fartek, yeah.
Fartek. Good guy. I can't help but like him a lot. Cameron Lawrence has come on very strong, and if it went the right way for him, he could do it.
And we are about to find out who is going to be able to do it here as we've made that turn through turn 7, and it is time to go racing here for the final time this season in the Saleen Cup. And a great launch by the pole sitting car. But look at Carter Fartek around everybody, then hard on the brakes, but from way back in the field. Some great action, but look at that move around the outside, the number 7 of Dion Lang. He got swallowed up and then shot back through and picked that lead up. What a recovery, if you will, from Dion Lang.
I agree, and that's one of the Chinese drivers who are in fact racing these cars over in China in the series there, so they're getting good seat time. They sent 2 of their best over as guest drivers, and they have been impressive.
Yeah, and Carter Fartek went from 4th to 2nd.
Thank you.
In that exchange. Yeah, exactly. And I'm a little confused. We have a full course caution. Not sure why. We'll find that out. But in that number 55 car shared by Chris Wilson and Matt Keegan, it rolled onto the throttle, and then suddenly it just looked like it stalled for a second. And this is paddle shifts and the like, so you don't see missed shifts and the like. So not sure what may have happened there. So
yeah, I hope they don't take this start away, because it's a pretty dramatic start, pretty good stuff. Boy, Keegan, that's a strong pairing.
It is.
With those two. You know, we have these 2 young ladies who've come in here, gorgeous gals, so I'll be honest with you, I didn't take them as seriously as I should have, and it turns out they are darn quick.
Yes.
Both of them, they both come from Formula Car backgrounds, and said this car reads a lot like a Formula Ford, albeit a lot faster, and they have done very impressively.
Well, apparently they decided that there was something that didn't unfold correctly at the start, because we are now seeing them form up once again in grid order.
Yeah, I thought that one yellow might be about, if they didn't buy it.
Yep. So there may have been, the guys went thinking there'd be a start, and there may have been a wave off.
Right.
So then it means, all right, back into grid position.
Well, one of the tricks, since you gave up a couple of tricks yesterday, I'll share one that we know about that a lot of people don't. Actually, it was Calvin Fish that taught me this, and that is look at what time the race is supposed to start and where do we stand on the clock. If they're running out of time.
Yep, there was no start. You just saw from it.
They jumped on the assumption.
Flash by.
Yep.
And there was no green flag that waved.
And so if something's running 20 minutes late, half hour late, you've got a better shot at getting a green on the very first pass. So. Yeah.
And the reason they waved off, we saw that one yellow and a white car that was way at the back as we were gathering the field up, and apparently it spun. There it is in the background.
Yep.
So that's why they waved off the start. You can see them back there. It looks like, I wonder if there's, is that car in the other frame with the front end up. So now we are back to green. And for the number 55, they're feeling things are righteous once again as they lead away from pole and into the lead they go. But Don Liang, he is putting on some serious pressure here already.
Yeah, I talked to him in Victory Circle last night after yesterday's race, and I was shocked that he's taking this triple serious. I mean, he's not even going to gain any points, but he wants to win.
Well, watching the way he is driving, I mean, he just attacks, watching him through this 1-2, this very tight chicane areas. Here's the number 34 of Molly Saleen, and Eric Powell was the driver who she shared with yesterday.
Yeah, today that's changed.
Okay.
And she is now with Kwan.
Alrighty. But Don Liang was just in full attack mode in that section of the racetrack and doing a superb job.
Yeah, I suspect he's very close to the steering wheel.
Yeah, Molly and Brewer you were talking about, she's got that car hustled up into the third spot right now, I believe.
You know, I figured them coming in here as rookies, I really just didn't take them very seriously, and I was shocked to find out that they were turning very competitive lap times. Both admitting these cars are a lot faster than anything they've ever driven, but they like how they read and they love the brakes, and said, boy, power's always your friend, right?
Absolutely. but from 8th to 3rd in that opening lap. What a remarkable start for those two. Don Liang right now coming up, thinking about it, showing the nose down to the inside. No, didn't quite get it there. Realized it, ducked back. Oop, a little bobble there by Brewer. And that 3rd place car, the first of the yellow-white Saleen throwback liveries, is behind these two.
A lot of you have been watching these races and or have been watching races for a long time will recognize a lot of these paint schemes as they fall back on well, days of the old, you know, from 70s, 80s, and then of course some of them more contemporary and certainly some more modern at this juncture. Cars are really attractive.
Bit of a problem there was just look at the number 34. We saw the Saleen Kwan car come down pit lane at one point, back out, and right now getting swallowed up by this field that is working its way through, so problems for that car. Meanwhile, look at Don Liang working those curbs, trying to stay with this 55. You're right, he is taking this seriously, really on it here. Carter Fartug continues to run in the 4th spot. Paul Terry up into 5th in the number 4. Rainey He started in the 3rd spot and slipped to 6th in that number 3 entry.
Boy, he's even covering. Look at that.
Yeah,
They're blocking. Yep. I know that's a new transmission in the Saleen and Kwan car, and I'm just wondering, since I just got that install, just got finished before we started, I'm wondering if maybe it's not working perfectly.
That could be. That could be.
These are a sequential 6-speed transmission, paddle shifter. Boy, he is on him like a cheap suit.
He is, isn't he? Really putting the pressure on. And the pace that those two have as a result of this battle is allowing them to sort of ease away just a little bit here. Brandon Davis, who had a problem in terms of the qualifying session and was well back, has started at the back of the field, has worked his way now up into the top 10.
But your point's well taken. Oh, okay, we'll just use a shorter racetrack. But your point's well taken, because oftentimes this kind of duking will slow you down. These two have kind of used it to move away, so they don't have to be looking over their shoulders for the 3rd place car very hard.
Sometimes you get that ever-present car in your mirrors, and the best defense is a good offense.
Just
drop the hammer and go.
Yep.
And that's what they seem to have done here.
Yep, look at that. They've really opened up a gap. Now, Carter's now on, is that Lindsay, or no, is that Brewer? Yeah,
that's Brewer, I believe.
Yep.
And he is racing with for the 3rd spot right now. Then Carter in 4th, Terry, he, Lawrence, and Dave's, somebody having a big ride through the infield there. That's a number 5. That may have been Brewer.
Yep. You know, Carter doesn't have to win the championship. He does not have to have that spot. He could win it from where he is. That put him in 3rd if that's who went off. And that's what it's looking like.
Yep.
He's now 3rd. He's head of the top, what they call the young guns. And of course, we got the Pro-Am guys, a couple at the back that are very, very good.
Yes.
That will be coming.
This lead duo up front, but there is a real battle brewing here. A little bit deeper back in the field. There's Carter.
Yep.
Now is Paul Terry behind him. And look at this. Rainey He is feeling the heat from Cam Lawrence, the first of those yellow and white machines. And, you know, for Brewer, had that moment down into that first turn chicane. But she has recovered beautifully. Didn't lose a lot of spots. And Dion Lang down to the inside. However, that's going to put him on the outside through this never-ending turn 9. But he's forcing the issue. He's still up alongside. He's going to have to give up here because it's really difficult to go 2 cars wide down into turn 10 and now 11. Oh, he jumps it up the inside. Contact, now contact with the curb. Got him over into the 55, and the 55 as a result is into the wall. And collected by the number 3 of Rainey He,
which is
who
the
had
other shine.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah. Mr. Saleen will not be happy, nor will the SRO officials. I would look for some drive-through penalties on that one, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand, certainly, Don Liang wanting to be serious about this and to go after it. But this was one of the other guest drivers has now been taken out of it.
Yep.
And a couple of drivers who are in this championship. But watch it here. And this is where you can see the 55 kind of did a straight line to the apex here, and it opened up, and Don came down. There was the first touch. Then he clouched that curb right there.
Yeah. Pushes him into it.
And it looked like he had avoided the contact until that.
Yep. And, of course, you can see by the steam, folks, as we've said before, all the life support systems for the engine are up front, very close to the end of the nose there. And so we've got the radiator, the oil cooler, and the intercooler are all up there on the front. And I'd say based by the fluid we're seeing on the ground there,
Yep.
We got water on the track now.
Well, the number 55 of Wilson, Chris Wilson, miraculously, he spun and stopped before he got to the wall. I mean, he was there, but never really hit it. And had everybody been able to avoid him, he could have just put it in gear and driven away, I think, maybe with a flat spot or two on the tires. But no fault of Rainey. He was unsighted in the middle of traffic, and when the seas parted, there was the number 55.
Well, we've said from the very beginning, and you were there at the beginning, this is when these cars get developed, it's going to get really competitive. Well, guess what, folks? You're seeing it. This is exactly what Saleen was after. Good close racing. But I can tell you he would have rather lived without all this body damage.
Oh, for sure. And here comes Wilson was able to still drive it away, bring it down into the pit paddock area. But, of course, everybody looking at it and going, yep, unfortunately, you can see he's trailing some fluid there and said, you're done for the day.
Yeah, we got some life support fluid on the ground.
With that exchange, as the caution comes out, Fartuk to the lead with Terry in second. And I think you're right. I think we might see a drive-through for that number 7 here for what they call avoidable contact.
Now, you got Mr. Terry in second place. Aggressive guy.
Yeah.
I hope that Carter realizes he does not have to hold that guy off.
Well, hopefully he's getting that's a question I was going to ask you here. Since it's a spec series and it's run by the Saleen group, with these drivers, who's talking to them on the radios as these races are
Each one of their crew chiefs are actually on the horn with them.
So you would think that the crew chief would be looking at it going, all right, here's the deal.
Yeah.
You know, the two guys behind you here aren't in your category. Don't get too wound up about it. Well, speaking of all that, let's get down into the Saleen camp and Ryan.
Well, we saw Chris Wilson bring that car down pit road. His co-driver, Matt Keegan, joining us here. Unfortunately, it looks like the day is done early. I'm not sure you had a chance to see what happened, or did you?
I haven't seen what happened. I heard that there was some contact. I haven't seen it. Poor Chris, he was driving down pit lane with the hood up. I'm not sure how he saw where he was going. You know, it was kind of, that was at least something to laugh about, I guess, right?
Yeah, some tough racing luck for sure, but how much fun has it been to be involved in racing these cars, driving these cars at some pretty fantastic venues?
For sure, the cars have been really fun. You know, this has been a rough weekend for us. Through practice, we were quick, and in the races it just hasn't come together. We've had some bad luck, but the cars are great to drive, and continuing to get the development done. The R3 guys and Saleen have done a great job with the cars, and we're excited for the future and what these cars are going to be able to do.
As are we. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, and of course, Matt, another reason for him to smile is coming into this weekend. Ironically, the guy that he's co-driving with, they were in a battle for the AM championship in the GT4. Let's go back and take another look at this incident here. And you can see that run by Wilson. He had to float out wide, and Dun Liang thought opportunity there. It's so narrow there, and then he hit that big curb at the apex, and that just wiggled him into Chris. You can see he hasn't hit the wall yet. And there's nowhere for Rainey to go.
No, that's a darn shame. I hate to say it, but when you see a door that open, any one of us, you, me, Calvin, we all would have tried to drive in that hole because it was a car width wide.
It was, and I mean it's tough to turn that invite down, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Doorbell or not, guess what? That door was open.
Oh, it was open just a little bit. So, but to finish what I was saying about that was Keegan and Wilson came in this weekend. They were in a battle for the AM Championship in the GT4 Sprint X Series for the National Tour. Chris Wilson's teammate, John Allen, ended up having to have some surgery, not racing related, but have some surgery. And so by that, Keegan ended up inheriting, well, they earned it. They had a big points lead. It was probably going to go their way anyway. But he and Preston Calvert won the championship, clinched it this weekend, and then they end up paired, Keegan and Wilson, in the car here. Just kind of a nice little circle come around, if you will.
It is. But interesting, as I sat in here and listening to you and Calvin on that line, so many championships came down to this weekend and this day.
Yes.
Despite racing yesterday, just incredible how tight SRO has this stuff raced out.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it'd been absolutely fierce. And, of course, the banquet tonight, you had the unveil for the GT4 Saleen concept car at the Bellagio. Well, the banquet for the SRO. And it's not just the Blancpain GT World Challenge America. It's the Asian Series and the Euro Series.
Right.
The full celebration coming tonight. And that might be Rainey Lee.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Who got the ride back in after the incident. But he was impressive. He qualified, I think, front 2 rows both days, third today.
Yep.
So
he's
showed
been
some
fast.
serious speed, yeah.
Now, I will be shocked if there's not a penalty to 7, a drive-through at least.
And the reason it hasn't happened yet, folks, is generally in the rule book, and I assume that the Saleen rule book somewhat follows the sporting regs for SRO, since it runs through the same sanctioning group, that a drive-through has to happen under green flag conditions.
Right.
So
yeah, this would be a gift. If you could do it under yellow, yes, please. No, that's not going to happen. Yeah, Paul Terry in second there. It's not who I'd want in my mirror.
Yeah.
Unless I knew I had a big-time advantage. I see Austin Riley running at the very back. I don't know what's happened. He has admitted that he has not taken well to this track. Now this is interesting. They're going to go in the big oval on around what, just to save time?
I don't know if it's that or if there's something on the infield that
they might have crews
that they want to clean
out
up.
of the way.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
at that incident point, so they could just circumvent it completely here and let the cars run around just a little bit. Fast lap in the race thus far, Don Liang at a 141 flat. That is a quick lap.
Yes, it is.
I'm looking at the everybody else. I mean, that's good 3/10 faster than the next quickest guy by my reckoning here would be Cam Lawrence. So
who proved yesterday he can be very fast. He won
no
Young
question.
Guns yesterday.
Yeah. Actually, Chris Wilson, right the lap before that incident, had turned to 141.1, which would be second fast lap. Tells you how quick he was running. So,
but we've seen Brandon Davis and Eric Powell both lay down, and Loshak have all laid down really over the course of this weekend, laid down some really quick numbers.
And I'm looking here at that number 6 car, sits 7th right now, the Bryce Miller, Johann Schwartz entry. And they, you know, others have been running low, mid, even high 141s. Their best lap is a mid 142. But I wonder if Bryce Miller is looking at it. Johann gifted me an opportunity to drive this car.
Right.
I'm not going to risk it at all. I'm going to keep it as close as I can.
Yep.
And this is an endurance racing mindset. I'm going to keep it as close as I can. That mandatory stop, you don't change tires.
Nope.
So I'm going to keep it close, take
Save
care of the tires,
Yep.
let Johann work his magic when he gets behind the wheel of that car with great tires, good brakes. Let's go.
And a good choice of words. Not only is the analogy great, but work his magic, Johann. That Danish cat really gets it done. He's very quick.
Yeah, he does indeed.
Very clean racer. We witnessed a race earlier in the weekend where he got pushed off, and we just like, it's just so not Johann to get in a contact situation.
Yeah, that's very, very true. You can see the cleanup still continuing over in the turn 12 area. That's why they continue to run on the outside of the oval, and that gives us an opportunity to pop back down to Ryan.
Thanks, Greg. We got an interested spectator here, Matt Brabham, who was racing in Pirelli GT4 America earlier. You had to stick around to check out this Saleen Cup stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple of friends racing. Bill Hines, we raced together in a GTR, and then obviously a couple other drivers, Johan and Lindsay and the girls. So yeah, I wanted to check it out. I mean, I've never seen these guys race before, and the cars look really cool. So yeah, I thought I'd just come down and check it out, and the racing's been great.
You know so many people in the series. Have they let you take a look inside the car, maybe sit in it? Has it got it percolating in your mind this might be a place to be?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely had a look at the cars. I'm really interested, you know, especially with new built cars and the way they do things. And, you know, obviously my uncle's, you know, building a Brabham, and I've done a lot of development work. So I wanted to just see what they're all about. And it's cool to see new cars and what they do. And the way the engine sits in the car is quite interesting to me. You know, it's not in line with the drivetrain and the wheels and everything. It's, you know, crooked and it's, you know, it's not a different angle, but it looks like it works. So, you know, and the cars seem really fast. They're doing good lap times out here this weekend.
You've put together a remarkably diverse resume for someone your age, thinking about the super trucks that you've done, the open wheel stuff in the States, F5000, sports car racing. What is it that drives you to try and drive as much as you can?
I mean, you know, I don't want to be sitting home on my butt watching TV. You know, I'm trying to make a living out of racing, and I'll drive anything. You know, so yeah, it's been great to watch these guys. You know, I'm quite busy. I go to Super Trucks next weekend. We're running on Continental tires there in the Super Trucks, and these guys are running on Continental, so I knew some of the guys over there as well. So yeah, no, this series looks really cool. It's great to be a part of, and yeah, the drivers seem like they're having fun. So I don't know. If they asked me to drive, I'd say yes for sure.
All right, that's a message for Mr. Saleen, Matt Brabham. Brabham blends into Saleen. There's something kind of poetic about how that sounds, guys.
Yes, it does indeed. And the one thing that Matt wouldn't say, because he's a humble bloke, but when he said, I'll drive anything, he didn't add really well.
Yeah, it's in the blood there, buddy.
Oh, it is. And I mean, you consider, I mean, his dad is Jeff Brabham, who's only a multiple-time IMSA GTP champion. As I understand it, a relatively famous grandfather as well.
Yeah, as I recall. Well, if you consider Formula One champion anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Black Jack Brabham.
Well,
cool to have him here, isn't it?
I got to give Ryan credit down in the pits. He does a great job. You and I both agree what a difficult job that is. He makes it look so easy, but he always comes away with a really good interview.
Yep, he knows how to extract information.
Yes.
I wonder where he learned that.
Yeah.
He's got some CIA history
Yeah.
that we're not aware of. Anyway.
Let's get that rumor going.
Exactly.
Why not?
So we think that looked like that area might now be cleaned up. They ran through it for the first time. So hopefully we'll, and the interesting thing is going to be here, there is that mandatory pit stop coming. When there is a caution, right before that pit window opens, sometimes they'll delay opening up that pit window.
Right.
I'm not sure, again, how they're going to play that here. I would think that they would want to get out, run a few laps under green, then do that pit window, let these drivers get some time behind the wheel.
And let me tell you, SRO takes that 2-minute stop serious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you pull out at 1:58, you're coming back through the pits. So it's got to be a full 2-minute stop, which is a really good time to allow a new driver into the car.
Yep.
And this is the way you make sure things get bolted up, like seat belts and radios plugged in, things of that nature.
Without having to overly rush.
Right.
And that's nice, you know.
Yep.
The other part of it is I think one of the reasons it's a little bit longer, and we cannot forget that this is a development series where they are not drivers, yes, but the car too.
Right.
This is testing
Yep.
for these cars. And I think one of the reasons they have that little bit longer window is it allows the Saleen crew people to plug in the data.
They download what they know so far.
Middle of the race.
Yep.
What are we looking at, and what do we have to address? I mean, that's all part of it too. Lights are out, so when Carter Fartug brings this field through turn 7, he will roll into the throttle, and we will go back to green flag, lap or two maybe, and then we would expect to see that mandatory pit window open up. But the guy to watch here is that second place car, Paul Terry.
Yeah, who will move you if the urge strikes him.
Yes, in the dictionary under aggressive, it's
Yes.
this picture, pretty much so.
And Carter knows who he is.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, we'll be watching to see if Don Liang ends up having some sort of a drive-through. But look who's worked his way surreptitiously up into 5th as we go back to green is Brandon Davis. Here we go. Boy, and Carter wanted nothing to do with a big attack by Terry.
Yep.
And jumped onto the throttle as soon as it went green. It got just enough of a gap. Look at Davis right now working the outside of Cameron Lawrence.
You and I have always agreed, never rule out Brandon Davis.
No, you can't. You just can't.
Kid is so focused. It's like talking to a gunfighter. He is all about it. Boy, that front group, there's so much talent up there.
Oh, isn't there? And the interesting thing for Paul Terry with Don Liang right in his mirrors.
Yeah, he's got his own problems.
And he might be getting a taste of his own medicine, too.
Yeah. Fair point.
You know, because both
right.
of them, we've seen Don is very, very aggressive. We know Paul is, so here we go. Lawrence fending off in that yellow and white machine. Beautiful S1, that blue one of Brandon Davis with his beautiful yellow highlights.
Yeah, Al Holbert colors, Sunoco, and just gorgeous.
Look at this, side by side.
See, Paul's going to have his own hands full here.
Yeah.
Do I wait for the 7 car to possibly get a penalty? Maybe not.
Yep. Well, and Don Liang down to the inside here. Is he going to go for it? He does. Terry shuts the door.
He does shut the door, albeit with an air of caution.
Yes.
Because he knew there was a car sitting there. But this is good for Carter because Carter can focus on getting gone while these two duke it out. But look who's also joined the mix.
Yes.
Cameron Lawrence is now in there as well.
Well, Don Liang, I mean, he's got, and he got a good run to the inside of Terry. There's a problem again for the 34.
Yep, that's the Saleen Quan car.
Yep.
Again, we were talking earlier about a new gearbox in that car done just minutes before they went out.
Look at this scrap. Oh, what a move by Don Liang.
Yep.
He took a look into 8, then backed out of it. Terry got in a little hot, and when he went to turn in, he was wide for turn 9, and Don Liang just cut down underneath.
Yep.
And for Don Liang, I don't know a lot about him, obviously, but he certainly is quick. And what I've heard is that he does a fair amount of racing.
Yep.
And if he knows a penalty's coming, a drive-through, best thing you can do is open up a gap over somebody, build a little bit of time, and mitigate the loss just a little bit here. But he hasn't been called in yet, or if he has, he's not responding.
And that would not be good.
No.
And then here comes our buddies.
Look at this swamp move up here
Here
into
we
turn
go.
1.
You and I both know 3 cars don't fit through here.
Oh, a lot of respect there.
Yeah, that was smart.
That was, as Lawrence made sure there was a little bit of room for Miller, and Brewer did a superb job as well. She recognized what was happening and said, I can fight it, but it'll be a wreck. Let's not do that.
You know, we talk about, Paul Miller being, Paul Terry being very, very aggressive. He's also very fast and
no question.
Pretty clinical cat. Okay, I saw a little something come
Moisture
out of the backside.
Yeah,
that's
Davis's car.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be driving him, whatever that is. But
yeah, sometimes you see that early in a race. It could just be a little fuel overflow.
Yeah, but we're into this thing.
We're into this a bit. Yeah, that's going to be of concern, certainly.
It's still coming out too.
Yeah. Not sure.
He might want to glance at a temperature gauge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks too thin to be oil.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think we're deep enough in that fuel's not going to be. You hope it's not fuel.
Yes, exactly. I don't see it anymore.
Yeah, but see, that's what you told me yesterday, Rick, when you don't see it anymore.
Usually that's with smoke, because it means that you burned up whatever is leaking. Oh, there it is. A little puff once again. So.
Yeah, these things don't heal themselves, as you pointed out to me yesterday. So.
Well, maybe Marmaranu's car. Physician heal thyself.
Oh, this may be Carter take. I hope this is his pit stop.
Wow, pit window. He timed that to perfection. What a great read. So by the time he hit that pit in line, that pit window was open. And whoever is crewing for him, they were on it.
Nicely done. Now, I hope this is consulting and not a problem.
All right.
It always throws us.
Yeah, Lawrence following suit. Here comes Bryce turning over to Johan.
Yep. All right, we know that I believe Quan was in first, and Saleen was going to get in second. Is how I was told as I was getting ready to come up here. A lot of talent just got out, but a whole lot of talent just got in.
Oh, no kidding. Johan there, Danish flag pattern on his helmet.
Very proud that he's from, I mean, he loves being an American, but he's proud of his roots.
Oh, as he should be. And we are hearing that Mom is sitting in Denmark and has this up on the web.
Oh, that's right.
So hey, Mut.
Yep.
He has to get that message delivered.
And his video series, if you don't know a racetrack or you're about to go to one that you've not been to before or just want to get better, you need to go to their website and look at that training. Well, we've seen no punishment of any kind issued, so they may have bought into the fact that it was not deliberate.
Yeah, I mean,
for the number 7 car who got into.
Ultimately, it comes down oftentimes to the steward's discretion, and if they decide, both drivers bear equal responsibility, or it was just a racing incident, you never know.
Yep, good point.
And sometimes what they'll do is they'll just add a drive-through equivalent penalty, they call it.
Oh, really?
So
in time, you say?
It's 24 seconds, the delta to drive through pit lane. So what they do is they'll usually add 4 seconds, so it could be a 28 equivalent at the end of the race. So, all right, here's the number 36. And that is Loshak and Powell.
Right. And that's a dangerous pairing, too. Those guys are quick.
They are quick, and it's Powell that'll be getting in.
If you're just tuning in, this is the Saleen S1 Cup. I hope this is Carter on his way out.
Looks to be.
I sure hope so.
Just doing a nice stop.
we root for this kid because he's led so many races, looked like he had them won, and then ended up with some kind of mechanical failure.
Yes.
Smoke you're seeing off the brakes. It just tells you how hard to work on these things. We've had no brake issues with the cars at all.
They just get hot.
Yeah.
And a lot of that smoke that comes up when we're, if you're watching as we're calling it, around the corners, you see all that marble build up in the junk. Well, as that comes off tires, it'll collect near and on the brakes, and then it smokes up like that. So it isn't a factor of the brakes having an issue. It's just particles on the brakes, and those brakes are running wickedly hot, obviously.
Now, the last race that you and Calvin were calling, I noticed when the champion got it won, he drove around on the cool-off laps, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday off mic. He drove around in the marbles, and I think trying to add weight. I don't.
Well, it's weight and ride height. It's,
that's right. I forgot about
oftentimes it's the even more important is the ride height, because you think about the weight of a car, especially for a Formula One car.
It makes sense. Yeah.
There's that's a higher percentage, but these this type of car or the other sports cars that run fairly heavy, so adding that marbling on the tire, pretty small percentage of weight, but what it can do can lift that car up, and if it can lift it up a centimeter, you were running on the edge, that gives you that little bit of clearance in tech, and they don't make you scrape tires when you roll through tech. So
good point. And things sag during racing. These cars work hard.
Well, and there's some pretty abrupt curves here, and if you hit a couple, then it just settles things a little bit.
Now you're not as high as you were. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a number 10 of
watch your speed, guys. They are very critical about pit speed here as well. It's kind of an SRO standard. Here we go.
Here's Johann Schwartz.
Yep.
And he's got those tires with a lap on it here. He's got those tires warmed up just a little bit more than will Brandon Davis. So the guys that have not yet stopped, Don Liang, Paul Terry, and Dr. Alex, who's currently listed in the 5th spot in the number, or the 3rd spot in the number 5, I should say. So behind them, it should be Carter Fartug. Once everything settles, he should be leading.
Yep.
Well, we have to wait and let scoring settle once everybody has completed their stops.
In the old days, the scoring was done by people writing down the numbers of the cars as they went by, but this is all computer age now, and these cars have transponders on them with key numbers. Oh, a little off-roading.
It's the number 34.
That's 34. I wonder if that's Molly just getting in and letting the tires get warm enough.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. Well, that turn 1-2 chicane is snug.
It's proven to be one of the trickier spots.
It has been. Yeah.
And you and I are not used to slower corners being a problem, but people are trying to eke every ounce of speed out of it. And it's been rugged.
Well, and you're coming from one of the fastest parts of the track into it. So
good point.
If you just
your arrival speed is high.
Oh, you bet. And if you just mistime your braking point just a little,
yep,
that's where you can see that issue happen here. And while we're waiting for the last couple of drivers to make their stops, again, for people just tuning in, tell us a bit about these cars, the construction, the motor.
Fair point. These are an aluminum tub. They are not a stressed monocoque tub. They are a welded aluminum tub. The cars weigh 2,200 pounds, have carbon fiber bodies, and about 450 horsepower from an inline Saleen 4-cylinder. As Mr. Bradley pointed out, it is an east-west layout, not a north-south like most conventional engines. Sitting in the back there, going for optimum weight and balance the way the cars are laid out, and the street cars will look identical to that as well, same system.
Here's a number 4, Terry. He just is doing his stop. When you're doing it solo, you still have to do the 2-minute stop.
Sure
you can just sit and relax and contemplate. And
of course, 2 minutes feels like 35, right?
Yeah, because you're watching the cars go by once and then twice. And you very quickly forget that while the others were sitting in there, you went by once or twice. Yeah, that fades quickly.
Yeah, memories get short.
All right, and here's Mr. Dong
see.
Lian in for, we presume, it will be
It looks like a clean
stop. Now, there's another thought that I thought of here, and again, it varies from rule to rule. Sometimes what they'll do, when you have a mandatory pit stop, they'll tack the penalty on
right here
to that pit stop time. So, I mean, who knows?
I don't see any SRO shirts.
No. And we've seen no notices coming up on our message screen from race control. So
good point. Good point.
This is all speculative, but
Carter is still pedaling very hard because he
Yes.
knows who's coming out of that pit. So he's looking for every second he can find here.
well, Carter should be leading from Lawrence. Then I think it might be Johann Schwartz. Again, I'm just sort of speculating here because Terry would still be essentially on the outlap after completing his stop.
Right.
So it could be Schwartz in the number 6, then the 14 in Davis.
I saw Davis coming back out, so
I think everybody here is absolutely hoping that the number 34, or excuse me, the number 18 of Fartuk, everything works on that car through this one. They've been dealing with that bizarre turbo clamp issue.
yeah, that was strange. Only that car.
So hopefully if they can rectify that, and he can get the full race out of it that he deserves.
And pay attention, this is a young gun. He's
Yes.
a driving coach and a bartender, believe it or not, at Outback, to keep the rent paid. But look how spotless he is. It's always placed in the same spot. You don't see hiccups from the kid.
Precise and smooth.
Totally agree, buddy.
And that's the one thing, okay, you've got 450 horsepower here to the rear wheels, right? A lot of grunt, but so does every other car in this field.
Yeah, and that's the only drag,
So if another car is sideways and you're smooth,
Yep.
he's lost momentum, you're going to have a better shot at it. Well, getting an update here as we watch Don Liang exiting pit lane. What's the story, Ryan?
It's not good news, unfortunately, guys. He's headed back out on track, but he's got a blistered left front tire, and per the rules, they couldn't do a tire change during that mandatory pit stop. So he has to do one lap of the track, come back in, and then they've got a new sticker Continental to slap on that car and send him back out into the race.
Well, kind of a self-imposed penalty, I guess you'd say.
Yep, in a way, for sure. And the way he was attacking in that early portion of the race, not a surprise that he had
And
that
to
little
your
tire
point,
issue
he was
on.
driving it in very hard and
Yes.
counting on those fronts to get him turned. So, yeah, I don't think he was in tire-saving mode.
Yeah,
Or
not
he
at all.
may have had a lockup, too, and you and I both know
that's-
that can do it as well.
You bet, a little flat spot, and then it keeps hunting for that same spot,
Yep.
and pretty soon you either blister it or run it to the cords.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's funny. Once you flat spot a tire, every time you get after the brakes, that's where it's going to want to stop.
Yep.
And slide it again. It's like, no, keep rotating.
and then it tends to remind you at very high speed intervals what error you made, because it sends that vibration and thump every time it loops around under acceleration, and there it is. So, salt in the wound, so to speak. They got to come in, get that new tire on the car, then do the drive-through for that incident.
We knew that was coming.
Yeah,
We were
something.
both surprised.
Yes, exactly.
If something hadn't been issued on that. So, despite a very good drive, I mean, this gentleman is very quick. He is going to go back and run this series in China, but he's going to go back prepared because he's gotten some very good time here.
Oh, he's got speed, no question. Here comes Carter, and with Liang now ducking back in, Carter will officially pick up the lead from Lawrence, then in the 19, then Schwartz in the 6, Terry in the 4, Davis in the 14, and the rest of this field. And Carter is just driving absolutely brilliantly with 12 minutes to go. And I want to take this moment because I want to make sure everybody listening is aware of it. You talked about the construction, you talked about the power, performance, the braking, and all of that. You think of all those numbers together and you go, wow, this thing has to be massively expensive. How much?
Well, these are $100,000 cars. I know.
Just remarkable.
And they're going to the performance values are nearly identical to the street car, so it's a heck of a buy. I'm glad you asked that question. Saleen has put his heart and soul in these cars. People think that he just sits at his desk and the cars get generated by other people. That is not the case. If you knew Steve Saleen at all, this is a hands-on Roger Penske type where he knows every detail, every I is dotted, every T is crossed. Even the decals, he oversees that they go on the way he wants them on. This is not a man, anal retentive is an understatement. He wants things a certain way. He gave strong dialogue last night to the crew chiefs on this car. It will finish today. I will not tolerate another turbo problem. So Steve Saleen can drive them, he can design them, and he can certainly head up the building teams. And he has expectations. Oh, this looks like the Quan Saleen car in.
That is, and it.
No, that's Mr.
Lawrence. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, what a shame.
Wow, he had been showing some really good speed again.
He's a nice young man. He
Truly
won
is.
yesterday. It was so funny. That car seemed to have so much trouble making turn 1 for 3 races in a row. And then he got in and had some breakdowns. And yesterday was so rewarding because he did win. But,
Absolutely.
And
he's a driver. I mean, he's got wins in Trans Am and the like. I mean, he's a young gun, but he's a shoe to be sure.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Carter Fartuk, margin right now 2.6 seconds.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is
this Lushek's car. I don't know who's in it.
the number 10 of Bill Hines.
Yeah.
Matt Brabham's buddy.
And I love the graphics on that car.
I do too.
That thing is pretty.
Yep.
And you can see it.
And that's Powell, I think, in the 36, because we saw that stop.
Okay, well, they know each other really well.
Lawrence got out, Powell in, so.
Oops, I saw a bobble there.
Yeah.
Like with a sudden understeer or something.
Well, when you're on the edge, and then you you just push a little bit harder, especially later in the race when the tires have been maybe past their absolute maximum efficiency and the like, and it just can't give it to you, and then you get that little slip.
Well, like you said, there's on the edge and then there's over the edge, and guess what? That line is hairline thin, so it's easy to get in trouble. It really is. These guys have just done so great compared to where you and I started with this series. Greg, look at how many cars are still running and running hard.
Yes.
So encouraging to see the development has paid off. As you put it, the very public R&D of these vehicles.
Yep.
As Saleen said, look, I could learn a lot off 1, but I can learn a lot more off 20.
Exactly, and you can test and pound around a test track by yourself all day long. You never submit a car and its components to all the various loads you do in race situations.
And I told
this
Saleen,
is the drive-through now.
It is a drive-through.
Yeah.
I told Saleen you said that, and he goes, he's dead right. I mean, you can't ask from it what you will ask for in a race.
All right, and tire going on. Nope, now this is.
Well, I hear a lot of yelling.
Yep.
And I'm going to assume we're not ordering pizza, so. Ooh, Steve won't like that wheel does not match in color. This is how anal Mr. Saleen is. So he may call it back in and say, no, we're putting a black one on.
All right, well, the tire change is underway. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that Johann Schwartz has now gone by Paul Terry, and he is cracking off laps right now that are consistently half a second quicker than Carter, and that margin at the front is down to 1.7 seconds.
He's going to
It's
get
less than that now. It's less than, and a spin by Hines.
Yep.
Nice job. They're keeping it off track until.
I saw a second tire getting ready to go on the iron car. So maybe he had more than one blister or used up more than one tire. Carter knows Johann well. He knows he doesn't matter to his championship.
Well, let's see what happened here. Hines taking a look and realized that he had overrun that corner, did not want to get into.
Yeah, that was a lot of self-sacrifice right there.
Eric Powell car, so pinched it, and the car rotated. But look at this. Margin now down to half a second.
Carter's a
Johann
smart kid.
Schwartz
He's going
on it here.
Yeah, he knows Johann, and he knows he can cut him loose and not hurt himself.
Yep. Yeah, the next young gun for Carter to worry about. Carter's leading right now, and it's Brewer back in 7th. So he's got 5 Pro-Am cars that won't affect his points in the young guns. Sure, you want to finish as far up overall as you can.
Oh, he'd love to win it overall. I know Carter. But Brewer won't matter because she's new to the series, and she will not score enough points to be any danger. So really, it's Austin Riley running around in 9th right now.
Yep.
Which is really, again, he has not become completely comfortable with this layout.
Yeah.
It's funny because so many other drivers are falling in love with it. We're really starting to like this place. But like you said yesterday, Rickett's starting to rubber up because it hadn't been used before. Yep. And I think they were starting to find the kind of bite they were after to drive them.
Absolutely. And, you know, as the grip has come in, so is the grin quotient here. The driver's really enjoying flinging it around the infield there. If you get offline, it's still dusty, dirty, and you get those marbles out there. But on track, it has been fun here. And Johann just sitting back there now, scoping. trying to figure out. Meanwhile, here's the number 4 of Terry. And sitting in the third spot, he's about 12 seconds back of Johann Schwartz. And maybe of concern for him is Brandon Davis has trimmed that margin behind Terry down to under 3 seconds.
It's funny because Paul Terry was knocking on the door real hard.
Yes.
For overall, and then I saw after the pit stops he was like 5th, and I'm like, what happened? So I think Johann will be kind to Carter. They know each other. Johann's a gentleman.
Yes.
And knows that Carter's not in his class as well in terms of points. Wow, we got a headlight cover coming off on Johann's car on the right side. Hope that doesn't lead to a mechanical black flag. But I know Johann, who's very clean, as you've pointed out in the past, will not do anything to endanger Carter.
No, he's not just going to stuff it down in there because he's close. That you know what he'll do. If he has a clean opportunity, he's going to go for it.
Oh, we both know
he
that.
wants the overall win for sure, but he's not going to do it putting another driver at risk here.
Tell you got to go to Saleen.com. You can be a part of this series next year if you want to. It's not hard to get involved. You will require an FIA license, but they have a procedure for making that happen. These are Saleen S1s, as they're referred to. Steve's pretty famous for the S7 that he developed and just annihilated endurance races in Europe. And they only have one left to sell, actually. One street version.
Right?
Yeah,
wow.
Just one to go.
That's cool.
And so he's holding out, as you can imagine.
Still one of the prettiest sports cars I've seen is that S7.
The S7 is really
sharp.
spectacular. I got to tell you, in person, these things, and boy, you should see the interiors for the street cars. They're absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, I think Johann's being a real gentleman about this. He knows how bad Carter has fought.
Yeah, Johann's best lap, about 7/10 faster than Carter's. But here's the deal, you know, you can run really quick laps when you catch the car in front of you. Until you get by them, you're kind of relegated to running something in that realm.
You're right.
And again, as you said, he's not going to do anything high risk at this stage. But now he's got to run, and this might be the time. And he's going to move to the inside. Carter wisely.
Whoa.
Well, I was going to say, well, he opened the door up.
He did open the door, and he's still being very polite about it because, again, they know each other.
Yep. He opened the door, but he didn't just say, go on through. He said, I will escort you around the outside.
Yeah, that's right. we dancing partners right now.
Exactly.
So I know Carter still got the grin because he knows he's winning the championship right now.
Yes.
And he has a lot of respect for Johann. We've talked about Johann a lot.
I was going to say, he kept Johann behind him for 3 laps.
He did.
That's something just to stick in your cap.
And actually, on Tuesday, I'm going to have Johann on my show, Drivers Talk, to talk about his 3D walk-arounds of racetrack. So, because we were mightily impressed at what we saw.
Go back in the field a little bit. This is a pretty good scrap here. Eric Powell and Ms. Brewer still having a pretty good little battle here behind Terry. This is for 4th. Brewer has moved up. Yeah, she's gone by a couple of cars. Because remember, not long ago I said she was back in 9th. She is flying. She's just turned a 142.8. Everybody around her is in the 143 to 144 range.
She's been quick, and here's somebody I'd never heard of her or dealt with her. I got to talk to her a little bit today on a Formula Ford background. That she still drives Formula Fords. Like all these kids, came from go-karts. I don't think you can get into motor racing today without doing some time in karts. And I mean, these guys have all been driving these cars all year. She comes in this weekend, and look at her. She's on them hard.
She is working over Eric Powell here. And we know how good Eric Powell is.
We know how good Mr. Powell is.
He is exceptionally quick, so Lindsay really putting in a good show here.
Especially when he gets a bit between his teeth.
Yes.
He will not be easy to pass. And like you said, catching's one thing, passing a whole nother thing.
Absolutely.
On a track that you pointed out to me is renowned for, this layout's been talked about a lot, is hard to pass on.
Difficult, no question about it.
Which is why you've seen some of the aggressive moves you've seen.
Some aggressive moves, certainly some creative moves.
You're going with that term,
We've
right?
seen a few of those, yeah, for sure. And for Lindsay now. Oh, for Davis, a problem for Brandon Davis. He worked his way from dead last.
No, he's
in the paddock. He'd worked his way from dead last. At one point, he was running third.
We know, yeah, he's exceptionally quick.
Yeah, in terms of, he's been Mr. Speedy in this championship for sure. You look at the wins, but also poles and fast laps.
This finishes this way. I'm happy for both those guys.
Yes.
They both have earned. They both had mechanical trouble at times where they were going to win, and here they are now, pulling it together.
Would be a fitting reward for staying with the program, obviously through the frustrations, which is going to happen again with the teething issues of a development program and staying with it. And we're on our final lap, and if they can finish that lap out, both of them will get a just reward. An overall win for Johan and a very impressive Class Young Guns win for Carter Fartuk.
Austin Riley, who came into this leading the Young Gun Championship, has fallen. He's actually moved up the field, but only to 8th. And that will not be enough points-wise to help him out.
Yeah, third in class, but just the way Carter's running.
Oh, boy, good point. I'm glad you reminded me of that. Third in class will make him tied with Carter, but Carter has more wins.
So there will be your tie break. And that's where Lindsay Brewer and her speed, being in the middle there is actually helping Carter out.
Yep.
Now, if I'm Carter, I don't want this race to go 15 more minutes with the speed Brewer's showing, because that could change things up.
Please stay off my back.
She is fast. Here we go. Last time into this very tricky turn 10, 11, and 12 complex.
And you see how Johan's sliding that thing around. We know the tires are pretty much at the end of their lifespan.
Yep.
Because they've been driving that car hard.
He has immaculate car control and uses that when the back end gets a little loose to just get it to rotate through the tight stuff.
Yep.
And here we go. Johan Schwartz and Bryce Miller teaming up to win the last race of the 2019 Saleen Cup season here. And finishing second and winning Young Guns at this finale as well is Carter Fartuk. What a remarkable day for him. Second in the Pro-Am category, third overall, the number 4. Or Paul, well, I'm waiting here. Okay, that was the Saleen Kwan car. Here we go. Oh, and look at this.
Whoa.
I think Terry got it, but look at how close. Powell was able to rebound and close back in a bit on Lindsay Brewer, but not enough. And Brewer will come through. Look at that. 4th overall, 2nd in Young Guns. She got through on Eric Powell, and Powell took a run trying to get back around. Couldn't quite do it. Still in all, Lawrence Loshak and Eric Powell finished 5th overall and 3rd in the Pro-Am category.
What a fabulous race.
Yes.
Well, again, gentlemen, thank you so much for the privilege of getting to work with you. I've enjoyed it very much. I'm going to run down to Victory Circle and hand out some trophies.
Likewise, enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing these cars next year once again. I'll tell you, got to give a shout out to Mambo number 5, Dr. Alex Marmaradieu, bringing that car up and 7th overall, 5th in the Pro-Am category behind Hines. And then very impressive young man, Austin Riley, finishing 8th overall, but 3rd in the Young Guns class. And then rounding out the top 10, Don Liang in the number 7 after a very fast drive, ended up fast lap of the race, but a penalty and a tire change. And then Molly Saleen and Martina Kwan rounding out the top 10. And here come our top 2. At the finish line, you just go straight. You don't worry about the chicane, so you basically just run the oval and bring it back down and in. And here comes Johan Schwartz. What a day for him. 2 wins in the same day. His 8th win in touring cars, and look at that fist pump. He is delighted. He's a competitor extraordinaire. I talked to him, he said, I do like driving these cars. They are fast, they're responsive. And now that they're starting to get that reliability that it just takes a little while to find here, they're putting in some runs here, and it's one of the reasons I really wanted to get Rick to tell us that number in terms of budget, because the performance that these cars deliver for that kind of money is just exceptional. So it looks like the cars are going around and staging over behind the victory circle area here. So let's take a look in this final race, second of the weekend final for the 2019 Saleen Cup in its inaugural season. Johann Schwartz and Bryce Miller coming through with the overall win and the Pro-Am win. Carter Fartook second overall, very impressive. And he'd been struggling all weekend with some reliability. The car held together, and he showed what he could do with a win in the Young Guns category. Then Paul Terry, third overall, second in Pro-Am. And Lindsay Brewer, she was a rocket ship late in this race, working her way from 9th overall up into 4th, second in the Young Guns category. And then in the 5th spot, third in Pro-Am, Lawrence Loshak and Eric Powell. And then 6th, Bill Hines, ending up 4th in the Pro-Am, and rounding out the Pro-Am category, Dr. Alex Marmaranu in the number 5, with Austin Riley coming home in 3rd in Young Guns. And our guest drivers, Don Liang, ending up 9th overall, again having to endure a penalty and a tire change. And then Rainey He, who is so fast, but the number 7 of Liang got into the number 55 of Wilson and spun him in turn 12, and Rainey He unsighted, and when the seas parted, suddenly there was the number 55 sitting there, nowhere he could go. But he too had shown some amazing speed, starting 3rd on the grid today, making that trip worthwhile coming over from China to experience these cars. But this day, look at that, a win in touring cars and now a win in the Saleen Cup for Johann Schwartz as he steps out of that beautiful S1. And let's get it down to Ryan.
Let's speak to Johann Schwartz. Hopefully get the helmet off here pretty soon. He and Bryce Miller sharing it. Some congratulations. Johann, certainly it was not the most straightforward weekend for you and the team, but to cap it off with a race win and to do it with a friend, how special was that?
Oh, it was unbelievable. We had a little bit of a mishap in our pit speed and came out a couple of seconds too early and had to get a drive-through, and we put it all together. Bryce, he gave me a car, gave me a perfect set of tires, and I could just go out there and run laps. And I just want to, because Bryce had a tough weekend with his car, a little bit of an issue there that couldn't be fixed, and then tow that had a little bit of, so I wanted to honor them for this, with this victory here, and then Steve for putting an unbelievable car, man. When that thing is running, it is so much fun to drive.
And Bryce, to get a chance to share the car with your buddy, kind of on last-minute notice there. How cool was that opportunity?
Yeah, no, Johann's been great to let me come in and share a car with him. And this guy's a champ. You know, he drove a great race today and everything. And I'm just glad my run was under caution because I was having some trouble driving the car with the mountain of pads I was sitting on. So we got a little bit lucky there, but nothing Johann couldn't fix. So
congratulations to both of you. And why don't we continue on here and have a word with our winner in the other category. We're going to step in here for live television real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Carter, congratulations. I know it's been a frustrating year from time to time,
yes,
but you get it done in the finale. It's the best way to end the year, right?
Yes, I couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, yeah, it's been rough this whole week almost. This whole the last 2 races. The first race on Friday, I was leading, and car broke down yesterday. Car broke down again. So yeah, I was itching to just get back to the top step, and luckily we were able to get it done today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, a bit of emotion down there from both of those drivers, obviously, as this brings the season to a close, and you win the season finale. I'll tell you, a lot of as the old adage goes, everybody remembers you from your last performance, and for those two guys, they can say they were winners for this entire off season. And they had an opportunity to enjoy a very special season of racing in these new S1 Saleens. What performance they put together, what a reasonable budget in terms of the car cost, and what a future. We've got the GT4 cars anticipating coming in to play as well. Thanks so much for joining us if you've been with us throughout the season, and certainly thank you for joining us here in Las Vegas at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for a fabulous season finale weekend of racing. To Calvin and Ryan Marine and to Rick Titus, a huge thanks. It's been a joy working with all of them throughout this season. We hope to see you next year.